Alright, so as a lot of you may already be aware, my wife and I just finished our spousal sponsorship process for permanent residence of Canada. I had applied to sponsor my wife in October 2021 and she received her COPR in April 2022. So it took about 6 months to complete the process. For more details on our timeline, you should check out these two videos here. So my wife has finally moved to Canada with me, and since this was such a big event in her life, I thought I'd document the journey and share all the colors of our emotional experience with you guys. So here's a super short travel vlog about her final goodbyes to her folks, her experience at immigration, what to expect at your first landing, her first steps in Canada, in Toronto, and finally this lovely apartment that she now calls home. Enjoy. So back in India, it's a week before departure. My wife says her final goodbyes to this fluffy fur ball that she calls Milky. As you can guess, her dog is extremely emotional and at the same time equally curious about something completely irrelevant that she might have spotted in the street. What a wonderful, heartless bond these two share. Now this is purely traditional, so you don't have to do this for your sponsorship application. Basically, when the girl leaves her mother's home, she gets henna or mehndi as good luck for a new venture. Quick tip, don't go for biometrics with a fresh print of mehndi in your hands, otherwise your fingerprint scanner will have 53 kinds of heart attacks and you will end up rescheduling. True story. This is her family, my in-laws, her mom and dad and brother all acting cool, but really are just a teeny tiny prick away from bursting into tears. But I'm more concerned about the scary side looks that they keep giving me. Telepathically telling me, don't you hurt her while she's away. You know the feeling if you're a guy. It's a very mixed feeling. As much as this journey was long awaited, obviously leaving home hurts. She's emotional not just because she's leaving her home, I mean that's what she says to be kind, but she really is overwhelmed that her whole life in India is being uprooted. All friends, family, jobs, streets, places to eat and local shops she's familiar with are now drifting away. She's chosen to travel thousands of miles away from her safe zone with a man who she has known a few months. Honestly, I would be concerned about this man if I were her too. It's a big risk she's taking and hence her being emotionally scared is absolutely called for. This is Frankfurt Airport. Quick tip, we traveled through Lufthansa airline via Frankfurt because it was cheaper. And as a PR of Canada, you do not need a transit visa for Germany. So don't worry about that. Neither me nor my wife needed a transit visa. I was already a permanent resident and my wife had just become a permanent resident. So even with just the immigrant stamp on her passport, she's good to transit via Frankfurt. Luckily, the last leg of our journey had a beautiful, luxurious silver lining. Upgraded to business class. We did not request any upgrade, but were given one. I think being a frequent Lufthansa traveler might have had something to do with that, or maybe the perfume I wore might have wooed the staff. Who knows how these algorithms work? But if someone is going to hand me the business class ticket, I am not going to argue with them. Anyway, after about 8 hours of delicious food, expensive wine and a couple shots of top-notch scotch, we finally made it to the Great White North. And here is the dreaded immigration zone, where everyone feels scared. No matter how legit your application record is, something about this place is going to make you feel guilty. And I've never figured out what that is. So let me interrupt this vlog just for a few seconds to cover some basic info which I think will be useful at this immigration window so you don't have to feel scared. So once you get to these kiosks, just slide in your PR card for the sponsor and the passport for your applicant, and the machine is just going to ask you some very basic questions, take a quick photo and then give you a receipt. Once you have a receipt, then you can proceed to the next immigration window together. Once at the immigration window, the sponsor, me, showed my PR card and my ArriveCAN receipt, and that was it.
Because I was already a permanent resident, there were no further questions from the officer. But my wife was arriving for the first time, she was immigrating, so she had to go through a bunch of other steps that are meant for people who are arriving for the first time. So just past this immigration window, there is another queue that is meant for new immigrants arriving for the first time, or even people arriving for the first time on student visa or open work permit. And this is where the officer is going to ask you a bunch of very basic questions to which there's simple yes or no answers, and then you'll be done. So let's look at the questions that they asked my wife. Purpose of visit in Canada, immigrating. Who's this guy? The officer asked, pointing toward me, to which my wife responded, my husband, he sponsored me. Next, where do you plan to stay in Canada? So this is where my wife gave the Canadian address that she had listed in the application. This is the address of me, the sponsor. Then the officer also asked, what flight did you come on? My wife simply responded, Lufthansa flight, and gave the flight details. Then they asked, was your visa ever refused before? Or have you been denied entry to Canada ever? The answer was simple, no. Then some basic declaration questions such as have you committed any crimes or forged any documents, etc, etc. So you know who you are, answer accordingly, don't lie. And then finally the officer will review your COPR document, sign the places that they have to sign, and then ask you to initial at a few places. Now keep in mind, do not initial or sign the COPR document until you're at the immigration window. Only once the officer approves and does their own signature, that's when you initial and sign. Alright, that is important. Then the officer did a final review and handed my wife her COPR and passport back. It is at this point that the officer told my wife to book an appointment at the nearest Service Canada Centre to apply for a SIN number. Previously, the application for the SIN number used to happen just at the immigration zone at the airport. That's how I did it. But at this point, I think they've changed it. So you have to apply through a Service Canada Centre. And that is where you will apply for your SIN number. I'll be making a video down the line once we get that done. Then the officer informed my wife that she can expect the permanent resident card to be delivered in about 3 to 5 weeks at her Canadian address, or basically the Canadian address that she listed in the application, meaning the sponsor's address in Canada. Alright, so we should be getting my wife's permanent resident card delivered at my address, now her address, in Canada in about 3 to 5 weeks. Alright, and I'll be making a video about that as soon as I receive that update. So let's continue with the vlog.
Relief. I mean, look at her. She's happier than she was on our wedding day. I mean, we did wonder for a second if this really happened. All those video calls, virtual date nights, and missing each other, would that all be over now? Or this is just a dream and I'm going to wake up from a FaceTime call from her? Believe me, I pinched myself hard and verified it. I also checked it on the IRCC website to be sure. This was real. Being away from your loved ones is a brutal test of time and patience. And time and patience is exactly what is required to bring them closer. However long this journey might be for you, my salute to your bravery and patience. This day will come for you, hopefully sooner. And when it does, be grateful and reach out to help others. There are thousands still waiting, confused, and looking for answers.